Welcome to Voice of Family. Life has a strange way of revealing its secrets, sometimes through tears, sometimes through memories, and sometimes through a single letter. This is the story of Maya, an ordinary woman with an extraordinary past she never knew existed. It's a story about love that never fades, sacrifices made in silence, and the hidden message of a mother who gave everything so her child could have everything. So stay till the end, because what Maya finds in her mother's old attic will not only change her life, but might just touch your heart too. The rain fell softly that morning as Maya Layton drove down the familiar road that led to her childhood home in Maplewood. It had been nearly 10 years since she last came here, 10 long years filled with city lights, corporate meetings, and quiet loneliness. Her mother, Eleanor, had passed away 2 weeks earlier. The house now stood silent, wrapped in the stillness of memories. Every corner whispered stories, some forgotten, others too painful to remember. Maya stepped out of the car and stared at the old two-story house. The white paint had faded, and the porch swing creaked gently in the wind. She could almost hear her mother's laughter echoing through the front door. Inside, the scent of lavender lingered in the air, her mother's favorite. Maya walked through the hallway, touching the framed photos along the wall. There she was, a bright-eyed little girl, holding a small teddy bear, and beside her stood Eleanor, smiling, strong, graceful. But there was something different about the house now. It felt empty, like it had been waiting for her. Maya sighed, "I'm home, Mom." Her voice cracked slightly as she said it. After unpacking her things, she wandered upstairs. The attic had always been off-limits when she was young. Her mother used to say, "Some memories are meant to rest, Maya. One day, when you're ready, you'll understand." That sentence suddenly came back to her, word for word, as she stood before the attic door. The handle was stiff and dust danced in the air when she pulled it open. The wooden stairs creaked beneath her feet. Sunlight slipped through the small window, casting a golden beam on old boxes and covered furniture. Maya took a deep breath and began searching through the piles. There were baby clothes, old toys, and a broken clock she remembered from the living room. But then, tucked away behind a trunk, she saw a dusty cardboard box, unmarked except for one thing: her name, written in her mother's handwriting. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled it closer. Inside, beneath a stack of yellowed letters and faded photographs, she found a single sealed envelope. It was addressed simply, "To my daughter, when you're ready." Maya froze. Her eyes widened. Her mother's voice echoed again in her mind. She sat there for several minutes, staring at the letter. Her heart pounded with a strange mix of fear and longing. Finally, she whispered, "What did you want me to know, Mom?" She ran her fingers across the seal, but couldn't bring herself to open it. Not yet. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sun began to break through the clouds, its light spilling into the attic, illuminating the box in a warm glow, as if her mother was watching her, waiting for her to take the next step. Maya held the letter close to her chest and whispered softly, "Maybe tomorrow." That night, sleep didn't come easily. Maya lay awake, the sound of raindrops tapping softly on her window. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that envelope, her name written in her mother's graceful handwriting, as if time itself had preserved it just for her. By dawn, she couldn't resist any longer. She sat by the old wooden table in the kitchen, where her mother used to make tea every morning, and placed the envelope gently before her. The sun filtered through the lace curtains, touching the letter like a silent blessing. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, yellowed slightly with age. The handwriting was unmistakable, elegant, careful, and filled with warmth. Maya took a deep breath and began to read. My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, it means I am no longer there to tell you these words myself. I've carried something in my heart for many years, something I never found the courage to say aloud. When you were born, I made a promise to protect you, even if it meant hiding a part of myself. Life, as you will learn, is not always about what we gain, but what we are willing to give up for those we love. You were just a baby when I made the hardest decision of my life. There were things I wanted for you, dreams I could never give. So, I let someone else help give them to you, someone you never truly knew. Maya stopped reading. Her throat tightened. The words felt heavy, almost unreal. She glanced at the next line, and her heart began to race. Your father, Adrian, loved you deeply. He never abandoned you, my love. It was I who walked away. Maya's breath caught. She read the sentence again, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her father, Adrian? The name felt distant, unfamiliar. Growing up, her mother had always told her he left when Maya was too young to remember, that he didn't want to stay. But this letter said otherwise. She continued reading, her hands trembling. Adrian wanted to be part of your life, but I was afraid. We were young, struggling, and I didn't want you to grow up seeing the fights, the fear, the uncertainty. So I left him behind, and I took you with me. I told you he didn't care, because it was easier than telling you the truth. A tear rolled down Maya's cheek. Her mother's words pierced through her like a quiet storm. I chose to bear the pain alone so you could grow without it. I know one day you'll question me, maybe even hate me for it. But I hope when you read this, you'll understand why I did what I did. Maya set the letter down for a moment, tears blurring her vision. The room felt smaller, quieter. It was as if the walls themselves were listening to her mother's confession. She took another deep breath and continued reading. If you're ready, Maya, find him. He deserves to know the woman you've become. And you deserve to know the truth about who he really was. You'll find a small silver locket inside this box. It belonged to him. He gave it to me the day you were born. Return it to him when you meet. Maya's hands shook as she searched through the cardboard box again. Beneath the letter, wrapped in a piece of linen, she found a silver locket, tarnished with time, yet still beautiful. Inside, there was a tiny photo of her as a baby, and beside it, a young man smiling warmly. Her father. For the first time in years, Maya felt something stir inside her, a mix of pain, hope, and longing. Her whole life, she had built walls around a truth she never knew existed. Now, they were slowly crumbling. She whispered softly, "Why didn't you tell me, Mom?" But deep down, she already knew the answer. Some love stories are too painful to speak of until it's time. Maya clutched the locket tightly in her hand, her tears falling silently onto the wooden table. She looked out the window, where the morning sun now shone bright, painting the world in gold. For the first time, she didn't feel angry. She just felt ready. The next morning, Maya woke with a heaviness in her chest, but also with a strange sense of clarity. The letter had opened a door she didn't even know existed, and now she couldn't ignore what was behind it. She sat at the kitchen table again, the silver locket resting beside her coffee cup. The small photograph of her father seemed to stare back at her, quietly urging her to take the next step. Maya pulled out her phone and searched the name, Adrian Callan. It felt strange typing it, almost like typing a word she wasn't supposed to know. Dozens of results appeared, but one caught her eye, a small art studio in Portland run by a man named Adrian Callan. Her heart skipped a beat. She remembered faintly her mother once mentioning that he painted. She hesitated for a long moment. What if he didn't remember her? What if he didn't want to see her? But then, her mother's final words echoed in her head. If you're ready, find him. That was enough. 2 days later, Maya found herself on the road, the box and the letter packed safely on the passenger seat. The long drive gave her time to think, to replay every memory she had of her mother. She remembered Eleanor's tired eyes after long days at work, her soft voice when she'd say, "One day you'll understand, Maya." And now she finally did. The drive was quiet, except for the hum of the tires and the sound of her heart beating a little faster with every passing mile. By afternoon, she reached the small coastal town of Harbour, where the art studio was located. The air smelled of sea salt and pine. A hand-painted sign read, Callan Studio and Gallery. Maya parked her car and sat there for a long time before stepping out. Her palms were sweaty, and her chest tightened with nerves. As she pushed open the glass door, a small bell chimed. The scent of paint and wood filled the air. Canvases lined the walls, portraits, landscapes, and abstract scenes full of emotion and color. At the far end of the room stood a man in his late 50s, wearing a paint-stained shirt. His gray-streaked hair curled slightly at the ends. There was something familiar about the shape of his shoulders, the tilt of his head. He turned around, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "Maya," he said softly, his voice trembling. She froze. The sound of her name from his lips, so gentle, so uncertain, made her eyes sting. You know who I am," she whispered. He smiled sadly, stepping closer. "Of course I do. I never forgot." Tears welled up in her eyes. "All these years, I thought you didn't want me," Mom said. He closed his eyes and shook his head. "Eleanor told you what she thought would protect you. She didn't want you to grow up in chaos. I tried to find you, Maya, but she kept her distance. I respected her choice, even when it broke me." Maya took a shaky breath. "She left me this." She reached into her bag and pulled out the letter and the small silver locket. He took the locket into his hands, his eyes glistening as he opened it. "I gave her this the day you were born," he said quietly. "I never thought I'd see it again." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Only the soft sound of waves could be heard from outside. Finally, Maya spoke, her voice trembling. "She told me to find you, when I was ready." Adrian smiled weakly. "And are you ready?" Maya hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I think I am." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Then maybe it's time we both stop living in the past." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about the years they lost, the memories they missed, and the woman who had loved them both enough to sacrifice her own happiness. Maya learned that Adrian had never remarried. He had painted portraits of her as a child from old photos Eleanor once sent him. Some of those paintings hung right there on the studio walls. As the sun began to set, painting the horizon in gold and rose, Maya realized something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Her mother's letter hadn't just reconnected her with her father. It had given her something much deeper, a chance to forgive and to heal. That night, as she stood by the shore, the waves crashing softly at her feet, Maya looked up at the sky and whispered, "Mom, you kept your promise. You protected me. And now I understand." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains of the small guest cottage Adrian had arranged for Maya near the coast. The air smelled of the ocean, and for the first time in years, Maya woke up without the weight of confusion pressing on her heart. But as she lay there, listening to the distant cries of seagulls, a thought lingered in her mind: the letter. She had read it once, but she hadn't gone through every page carefully. What if there was more? After breakfast, she took the box from her bag and unfolded the letter again. This time, she noticed something new: 2 more pages folded beneath the first. The paper was thinner, more fragile. Her mother's handwriting grew softer, shakier toward the end, as if written in her final days. Maya began to read. "My sweet Maya, if you've come this far, I know you've already found Adrian. That alone gives me peace. But there is something else I must tell you, something I couldn't bear to say when I was alive. There's a reason I never remarried, a reason I never left that house, even when the world felt so lonely. It wasn't just because of you. It was because of the promise I made to your father and to myself. When you were only 2 years old, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. The doctors said it wasn't life-threatening then, but it would one day limit how long I had. Adrian wanted to stay and take care of me, but I didn't want him tied down by my illness. I wanted him to live, to paint, to chase the dreams he had before we met. So I left. Not out of pride, but out of love." Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her mother's words painted an entirely different picture, one not of betrayal, but of courage. She kept reading. "Every day I missed him. Every night I wished things could have been different. But when I looked at you, Maya, I knew I had made the right choice. You were my reason to keep going, my purpose, my joy. If you ever feel angry with me, promise me this: look at the stars. That's where I'll be, still watching over you, still proud of the woman you've become." Tears blurred the ink on the page as Maya read the final lines. Her mother hadn't lived in regret. She had lived in quiet strength. Every sacrifice, every silence, was an act of love disguised as distance. When she looked up, Adrian stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He must have seen the tears on her face, because his expression softened immediately. "Another letter?" he asked quietly. She nodded, handing it to him. He sat beside her, his eyes scanning the pages slowly. When he finished, he simply placed the letter down and exhaled deeply. "She never told me," he whispered. "I thought she left because she stopped loving me, but all this time, she was protecting me." Maya reached for his hand. "She protected both of us." For a long moment, they sat together in silence. The waves outside rolled gently against the shore, like the sound of time healing itself. Later that afternoon, Adrian took Maya to a small cliff overlooking the sea, the same spot where he used to paint when he was younger. He pointed to a weathered wooden bench carved with initials, E+A. "This was our place," he said softly. "We used to sit here and dream about what life would be like if everything went right. I guess, in a way, it did, just not how we expected." Maya smiled faintly. "Maybe it went right in a different way." Adrian nodded. "Maybe love doesn't need to stay the way it started. Maybe it just finds new forms." They sat there until sunset, the sky melting into colors of gold and pink. Maya felt her mother's presence in the wind, in the waves, in the quiet peace of that place. When she stood to leave, she looked at her father and said, "I think I finally understand her, Dad. She wasn't just my mother. She was my guide." Even now, Adrian smiled, his eyes glistening. She always was. That night, Maya returned to her cottage and placed the letter, the locket, and a small seashell from the beach inside the cardboard box. Then she whispered, "Mom, your story isn't ending here. It's just beginning again with us." A week had passed since Maya discovered the truth about her parents. Each day felt lighter now, like the air itself carried a sense of peace. Yet one final piece of her mother's message still remained unfinished. The letter had ended with one last line written at the bottom of the page, almost as if Eleanor had written it with her last ounce of strength. Bring everyone together, Maya. The letter isn't just for you, it's for all of us. Those words echoed in her mind. She knew exactly what she had to do. Maya returned to her childhood home in Maplewood a few days later. The house stood as it always had, quiet and timeless, waiting. But this time, it didn't feel lonely, it felt alive again. She called her younger brother, Evan, and her older sister, Clara, both of whom had drifted away over the years after small misunderstandings and distance. They hadn't been in the same room since the funeral. When they arrived, both seemed hesitant, unsure of what to expect. Maya, why did you ask us to come? Clara asked softly, her voice guarded. Maya smiled gently and held up the folded letter. Because Mom asked me to. They sat together in the living room, the same place where their mother used to read bedtime stories. The fireplace was cold, but the moment felt warm. Maya unfolded the letter and began to read aloud. Her voice trembled at first, but soon it grew steady, strong, filled with the love and emotion that her mother's words carried. Each word reached deep into the quiet of the room, breaking down walls that had formed between them over the years. To my children, the letter read, "If you are reading this together, it means you've found each other again. That's all I ever wanted. Life may scatter us across miles and years, but family is the thread that never truly breaks." Evan wiped his eyes silently. Clara looked down, her lips quivering. Maya continued, her voice breaking slightly. "Forgive each other. Love each other. And when you think of me, don't think of the days I was gone. Think of the love that never left." When the last words left her lips, there was silence, soft, sacred, and full of memory. Then Evan whispered, "She really thought of everything, didn't she?" Maya nodded, smiling through her tears. She always did. Afterward, they opened the old box together. Inside were small keepsakes Eleanor had left for each of them, an old family photo for Evan, a pressed flower from her wedding bouquet for Clara, and a handwritten recipe card for Maya labeled, "Our Sunday pancakes. Don't burn them this time." For the first time in years, laughter filled the house again. Not the loud, forced laughter of reunion, but the quiet, healing kind that only love can bring. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the maple trees, the three of them went outside to the backyard where their mother used to hang laundry and talk about her dreams. Maya held the silver locket in her hand. She looked up at the sky, glowing with streaks of orange and purple, and whispered, "We found him, Mom. We found each other, too. You can rest now." Clara placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "She'd be proud of you." Evan nodded. "Of all of us." They stood there quietly, arms linked, watching the sunset. In that moment, it didn't matter how many years they'd lost or how many mistakes had been made. What mattered was that they were together, just as their mother had wanted. That night, Maya placed the letter back in its envelope and sealed the box once more. She wrote on the lid, "For the next generation, our mother's story." As she closed the attic door behind her, she smiled through her tears, whispering, "Your love still lives here, Mom. Always will." Sometimes love doesn't shout, it whispers through time. Sometimes sacrifice isn't seen, it's felt in the hearts of those left behind. Eleanor's hidden letter was more than words on paper. It was a bridge between the past and the present, between regret and forgiveness, between loss and love. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts or memories in the comments below. Maybe you too have someone whose love changed your life in ways you didn't understand until later. And if you do, tell them while you still can.